to put in the really, really hard work for extended periods of time, because that's what you have to do if you want to make it. Like, the industry in itself is so hard to break into. And I think what great day to play. Great day to play. You know, a lot of what Lucas has found was that a lot of those people that he'd get into partnerships with or like try to do stuff with, they didn't have the same motivation that he did. And so those projects didn't ever end up panning out, because you put energy into it, you spend 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it is, and the people get kind of bored, and then, you know, all of a sudden it's not fast enough, or it's not happening fast enough, and they lose it, and you can't do it on your own. And so like that allies really rings out to me, because, you know, when Lucas and I finally met and started working together, it was really refreshing, I think, for the first time to be able to see somebody else who really desired to do it, but didn't necessarily have the know-how of how to make it happen on his own. And so we've been able to be kind of that ally for each other when, you know, when we get down or when things get really, really tough. And especially now, I mean, like early on, it was already that way, but especially now, like we talk, you know, every day, even when we're not at the studio, whatever it is, even when we were on vacation, you know, checking in with each other, seeing how each other's doing. And there's plenty of times where like I'm just down or he's down, or for whatever reason, like it could be things in our personal lives that are happening, but we tend to be that anchor for one another to help get through those moments and those times, and help to re-inspire and remotivate, you know, each other. And I think it's extremely, extremely important when working in groups that everybody kind of has that mentality, that kind of, you know, persistent mentality to be able to help each other. Before SB19, there was Nara, a group of mixed boys and girls. Trainees included Pablo, Stella, and Josh. Okay. There were hundreds. It was a co-ed training, so there were also young women training with them, but it was a grueling competition. People either leave or get cut when they didn't perform well. Okay. Got it. I'm just reading through some of these comments, guys. Yeah, I saw the part in the previous interview where Stella talked about he was the only one who left. Or was left. I know there were 1,000 auditions. That's so crazy. I saw the Juan de la Cruz. It's like the Filipino counterpart for like Uncle Sam. Yeah, I did see that. The group almost debuted with 7 members, less Ken, but the 3 left. That's when the company extended for another audition to look for the final member, and Ken aced it and completed the group. Got it. Okay. So crazy that they were mixed at the beginning. I wonder, you know, was it just because they were the ones who made it, or did they just decide that like a boy group would be better? Mixed groups have very, very interesting dynamics too. You don't see a lot of them.
Ko na etong mga to, sigurado ako in the future parang magiging successful kami, parang ganoon, dahil pare-pareho kami ng mindset. Yun na yung ano ko, iniisip ko. Then yung success na parang sinasabi nyo, sa totoo lang, kahit hanggang ngayon hindi ko pa masasabing success, pero slowly nararamdaman ko, dahil sa love na natatanggap namin, as a support na natatanggap namin, mas nararamdaman kong gumagaan na yung pakiramdam, na nawawala na yung paunti-unti yung hate ko sa mundo, yung ganun levels. Kasi hate ko talaga yung mundo, parang ganun ka. Parang iniisip ko minsan, napaka-cruel naman ng mundo, talagang unfair para sa mga taong katulad ko, ganun. Pero ngayon, dahil pinaparamdam sa amin na mahal kami ng mga fans, ng mga tao, parang unti-unti nawawala yung hate ko sa lahat, parang gano'n.
Wow. Very inspiring.
Wow. Yeah, his story is
How about you,
crazy.
Kamusta? Ano naman ang kwento mo bago ka naging part ng SB19?
Yeah.
Ayan.
Like, gaano ba kahirap yung mga pinagdaanan mo?
Ano na rin to? Itong sasabihin ko, share ko na rin yung story para na rin sa mga kung sino man dyan na nangangarap pero natatakot, nahihiya. Sana maging, kahit pa paano maging example, or kahit pa paano magkaroon kayo ng lakas ng loob. Nagsimula kasi to nung high school ako. Doon ko na-realize and doon ko naramdaman sa sarili ko na parang, bakit ka nahihiya, bakit ka natatakot, bakit hindi mo subukan. Yun yung mga salitang tumatak talaga sa isip ko. Parang, sino ka ba para mahiya? Sino ka ba para matakot? Ano bang ginawa mong masama para itago mo yung sarili mo? Parang ganun. Growing up kasi, kaya ako natakot and kaya ako nahihiya. Kasi, nung bata ako, lagi akong lapitin sa mga nangaaway, mga nangaapi, mga bully, ganun. Pero, hindi ko pinapakita yung side ko nung bata na naaapi ako. Kasi, pag tinignan mo ko ngayon, di ba, para akong bibukid, parang ganun. Kasi nung bata pa ako, talagang hindi ko pinapakita na mahina ako pag ginaganon nila ako. Basta pag may nangaaway sa akin, hindi ako lumalaban, ganun, hindi ako pumapatol, ganun. Tapos, ayun, habang lumalaki ako, doon ko na-realize na parang, ba't ganun, pag mabait ka sa tao, parang mas lalo ka nilang inaabuso, ganun. dumating na ako sa point ng ganung pag-iisip. Pero never naman ako nag-hold ng galit, ng grudge sa mga taong nang api sa akin noon hanggang ngayon, mga ganun. Tapos, ayun nga, nung high school, hindi naman siguro sa hadlang, pero kasi yung parents ko, mas gusto nila na mag-focus ako sa studies kaysa sa mga extracurricular activities sa school. Okay naman sa kanila, pero yung mga kumbaga, okay sa kanila yung mga interschool project, interschool na mga gawain. Pero yung mga, halimbawa, sasali ka ng dance group, tapos lalaban sa labas, mga gano'n, hindi na nila gustong gawin ko yun. Kasi mas gusto nila mag-focus ako sa school and kung ano yung makakabuti para sa akin sa school. Pero naisip ko kasi noon, sabi ko, bakit hindi ko itry? Wala naman sigurong masama. Tapos, ayun, hanggang sa, tinry ko lang magpursige. Pero sa sarili ko noon, iniisip ko parang, may mararating ba ako sa ganitong ginagawa ko? Or talagang mag-focus lang ako sa studies ko? Tapos, nagkaroon ako ng mga friends na nagpupush sa akin na parang, alam mo, Stel, may talent ka naman, bakit hindi mo pa subukan? Wala namang masama. Kung kaya mo naman pagsabayin studies and yung gusto mong gawin, yung extra na gusto mong gawin. Kasi, honestly, sa studies, hindi naman ako yung masasabing super matalino, hindi naman ako masasabi yung super magaling talaga sa class, pero siguro ako yung masasabi kong masipag lang, ganun. And yung grades ko naman, hindi naman ako bumabagsak. Kumbaga, okay naman ako, parang ganun. Kaya sabi ko, feeling ko naman, kaya akong pagsabayin, basta hindi lang ako babagsak. Okay na yung ma-maintain ko, hindi lang ako babagsak. And then, dumating sa point na, okay naman, nakagraduate ako ng high school, nang pinagsasabay ko yon, yung pag-aaral and pag-dance. And from there, nakabuild din ako ng konting confidence and konting tiwala sa sarili ko na parang, meron naman pala akong kakayanan. Sige, tuloy natin to. So, ayun, nag-college na ako. Nung college, doon ako mas nagkaroon ng maraming...
This is so interesting, and I'm gonna guess that it's probably the same in the Philippines, and people in the chat can correct me if not. But I remember being, when I was in middle school and high school, like being a guy and being involved in musicals or theater or singing or dancing or anything like that, that was like always just like an opening for bullying, and it always, like, I still think of it to this day of like, why, right? I guess that, in society's terms, it's not like the manly, like, even though like I did sports and stuff, but there did become a time where, like, in high school, like I had to choose because we couldn't do everything. Like, there's only so many classes during the day. There's only so much time during the day. So like there was a choice between like, was I going to go and do music or was I going to go and do sports? And because I had already broken my shoulder, sports weren't as much of an option anymore anyway. But I even had to give up an instrument because like we didn't have like I could do choir or I could do band. I couldn't do both. Like it wasn't available during our schedules with school. So like I even gave up sax for years because I was pursuing voice. But man, like our kids relentless, and I think especially elementary school doesn't really matter as much because kids are still so innocent. Right? They haven't been spoiled. They haven't been tainted. They haven't, they don't see color. They don't see boy or girl. Like they like literally at that point in time, they're innocent, and all they see is another person that's their age that they can talk to or play with or whatever. Right? And then we start getting into middle school. We start getting into high school, and society puts all this pressure on us. And as we go through our adolescence into our teenage years and start going through puberty, like those pressures become larger and larger. And it's the largest time where we are impacted by our peers, right? That's why they start teaching peer pressure and everything like that. And it's crazy because I hate it so much and I hated it during high school that was a thing. Because again, I wasn't in a place where like those were normalcies. There are some schools out there that like lean more on music or more on whether it be voice or choir, whatever, and like that's cool, but it wasn't cool for me. So I was often the bullied kid as well. And when he talks about, kind of finding more of that confidence once, he graduated, that's kind of a normal chain of events, because once you graduate, you're not with general public anymore. Now you get to do, if you're going to continue to go to school or be in society, you get to kind of pick more of the direction that you start to go, versus when we're thrown into in high school or middle school, generally you're thrown in with everybody. And so, and there's so much more of that peer pressure there. So it's just crazy to hear that, like, not crazy in terms of like it's unbelievable, but it's crazy like how many people have to go through that. And then I'm sure if you talk to a lot of artists that come from backgrounds where we went to public schools as opposed to, more private type schools, that you're going to see a lot of that in every single country, regardless of where you go, that like that bullying exists for those things, because again, it's not necessarily considered something manly. We have to put all these stereotypes on it, if that makes sense. I think you might have some rose-colored glasses. The first time I remember being bullied for being different was 5th grade. Those were 10-year-olds purposely being cool to me. So, Sarah, I think that it's interesting that you mentioned that, because things have changed so much from when I was there to when you are, due to cell phones, right? Like when I was in high school, first off, I didn't even have a cell phone. I bought my first track phone in middle school because of my family situation. We never had a phone on at home, and like I needed to be able to get a hold of my grandparents. But like it didn't do anything. It was literally meant for as a phone for emergencies to call, and that was it. And I didn't have any type of real phone until probably my junior or senior year of high school. And they weren't smartphones back then, right? Like even after that, when I was doing political work and stuff, like we were working on BlackBerry, so they weren't smartphones. But now kids do. You are right. Kids now that have access to that, like bullying becomes easier because they're exposed to it earlier, if that makes sense. When I was younger, we weren't exposed to that because you didn't get into those, like you weren't exposed to those ideas because there was nobody to expose you to them. But now the internet exposes kids to those ideas. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, like whatever it is, they have access to all that toxicity right at their fingertips. So I do think that it starts earlier. I still don't think that like kids first, second, and third grade have that built into them until it's taught, right? Like it is a taught behavior. Toxic masculinity, but any kind of bullying, even when it doesn't come to masculinity, femininity, even when it doesn't come to those things and it's just regular bullying, I think that it's so much more perverse in today's society due to technology than what it was, if that makes sense. So pursuing the arts is actually frowned upon in Filipino parents, the not so rich ones, because they believe that people who pursue the arts needed to be exceptional to make money. Yeah, and that's kind of another thing too. It is very, very difficult. I remember when my family never necessarily held me back, but like they also didn't have the means to be able to help in any of that, which is why I wasn't able to complete college early on and a bunch of other things. But like it is so difficult to make it in music that and a lot of in here in the West as well, that like a lot of times parents are the same way. Like they don't necessarily push you to go into those because it's so hard. And even if you are really talented, it's still so hard. When you were in high school, Dancer's Cooler, I guess, was Stell and his visuals and some just jealous of his dancing skills. I mean, maybe you guys, it was not that way where I went to school. So it was not that way at all. Boys that sing and dances in schools in the Philippines are considered popular kids. That is the exact opposite from what it is here. And again, I guess it really depends on where you go to school as well, but at least where we're from. I don't think phones necessarily played a big part in Sarah's age because it's about America, but phones weren't that big before high school here, but video games, sure. I could say that video games would have a big impact as well.
Circle of friends na mas nagpupush sa akin. And ayun nga, na-mention ni Josh na doon ko nga nakilala, yung mga kakilala ko nung high school, bumuo kami ng group, which is yung Seyon nga. Tapos lumalaban kami internationally, and then sa kasamaang palad, nagkaroon kasi ng time nung college ako, pinagsabay ko yung studies, yung pagsasayaw, and yung pagiging working student. Para makatipid din sa tuition fee. Ayun, kailangan ko mag-working student. So, pinagsabay ko yung tatlong yun. Tapos, feeling ko nung time na yun, kailangan ko mag-strive harder para, alam mo yun, may mapatunayan. Sa panahon kasi nun, kami yung maraming iniisip na parang, dapat ako, marami ako mapatunayan sa pamilya ko kasi mas pinili ko to. Tapos, from Las Piñas kami nakatira. Yung pinag-enrollan ko, Makati. Sobrang layo. Everyday travel from Las Piñas, Makati to Las Piñas. Uwian yun. So, aral, practice ng sayaw, and then work. Yun yung ginagawa ko everyday. Tapos dumating sa point na sobrang pagod na ata, hindi na kinaya ng katawan ko. Nagulat na lang ako, umuwi ako sa bahay, sobrang nalalambot ako, tapos hindi ako makatayo. tas lahat ng kinakain ko, sinusuka ko din, ganun. Tas dinala ko ng parents ko sa hospital, tas ayun nga. Sabi ng doktor, muntik na ako magkatubig sa baga. Sa sobrang dami ng ginagawa ko siguro, pagod din. Tapos doon talaga parang nalugmok ako. Kasi wala, lahat ng pinagpaguran ko, lahat ng naipon ko, doon din napunta sa pagpapagaling ko. And doon ko na-realize na parang dapat pala hindi mo rin pinapagod yung sarili mo. Kasi yung ginagawa mo, yung pinag-iipunan mo, mapupunta rin sa wala pag ikaw na yung nawala. Parang ganun. Matuto ka rin na alagaan yung sarili mo, ganun. Wag mong sobrahan yung paggamit sa katawan mo kasi ikaw rin yung mawawalan.
Sa suffer.
Tapos ayun, nung nagkasakit ako, syempre hindi ko na pwede ituloy yung studies ko. Kasi napunta na lahat sa pagpapagaling ko. Yung mga sinesweldo ko dun sa sa pinagtatrabahuhan ko, dun din napunta sa ospital. So napagdesisyon na ng family ko na kunin na lang ako ng tita ko sa Japan. Makatulong ako sa kanya doon and pwede niya pa ako bigyan ng extra money, kumbaga sweldo sa pagtulong sa kanya. Para yung may ipon ko doon, pwede ko rin ibigay sa family ko, sa parents ko sa Philippines. Parang ganun yung naging setup namin ng family ko. Naging okay naman ako, nagstay ako ng 6 months sa Japan. And then pagbalik ko ng Pilipinas, ayun, natuloy na nga yung sinasabi ni Josh yung Seyon, and then doon ko siya na-meet, doon ko siya naging friend, and then naging kagrupo ko siya. Tapos dito na rin dumating yung pag-try ko na sumali sa audition for SB19. Actually nung una, sorry medyo ang haba ng story ko.
Okay lang.
Next week, sa pagpapatuloy ng Kwento Juan.
Dude, the song at the end's a jam. Ooh, I should start we have a Patreon. I don't, I probably should promote our Patreon more, but we do have a Patreon. So thank you all. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. It's so crazy. I'm excited to hear back the rest of his story that I cut off, it seemed like in the middle of his interview. So I'm really, really excited to see the rest of the story. But man, like, this is the stuff that I live for, like seeing their personalities, what drives them, what motivates them, their backgrounds. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that really, really attaches me to artists, and I love seeing that here. So thank you so much. And this is a great format, this KwentoJuan. So like super, super excited to do another one. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out all of our stuff. You can check out our music, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Check out our Patreon page for extra videos or to support. Check out our Discord, follow us on Twitter. Do all the stuff, do all the things. If nobody told you that they love you today, don't forget that I love you. You're appreciated, always welcome here in this channel, and you are enough. And last but certainly not least, it was a great day to play. Thanks, guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.